There are moments when the soul feels that something big is approaching. It's not fear exactly. It is a silent restlessness, like a whisper that runs through the heart in the midst of the noise of the world. Sometimes we believe that it is about stress, the news, the difficulties that pile up day after day. But other times, that whisper has a name. It has a face. It has a voice. And that voice comes from heaven. That voice is that of a mother who never tires of warning, of loving, of guiding. That voice is Maria's. For more than a century, Marian apparitions have marked history with messages that cry out from the depths of divine mercy. They are not stories, they are not superstitions, they are calls from a mother who does not want to see her children get lost. Fatima, Lourdes, Medjugorje, La Salette. All these places are not only scenes of miracles, but lighthouses in the midst of a growing darkness. And today, more than ever, Mary's words resonate with urgency. We live in turbulent times. Just look around. Wars that multiply, unknown diseases, earthquakes that shake the earth and the soul, broken families, hopeless youth, cold hearts, and a humanity that has learned to live without God. But Maria has not stopped talking to us. It keeps looking for us, even when we ignore it. His voice crosses the borders of time and space. She knows the darkness that is coming, but she also knows that there is still hope. And that hope is you. That hope is all of us, who can still open our hearts. It's not about scaring you. These are not sensational predictions. It is about the truth that can no longer be silenced. Mary warns us because she loves us. And his love is not passive. His love fights. His love cries. His love does not give up. When he tells us that we should pray, he does not say it as an obligation, but as an act of protection. When he asks us to return to God, it is not for punishment, it is for salvation. And when he speaks to us about the end, he does so that we wake up, not so that we fear. But what if we don't listen? What if we let this message pass as one more? What if we ignore this warning like so many others? Then we would be rejecting the last opportunity that heaven offers us, because there will come a day when the sky will be silent, not because he doesn't want to talk more, but because he will have already said everything. If you have come this far and something has touched your heart, I invite you now to do something simple but powerful. Subscribe to this channel so that more souls can hear this call from heaven. And leave us in the comments from which city or country you are watching this video. We want to pray with you. We want you to be part of this community that seeks light in the midst of so much darkness. Your subscription can be the bridge for others to also hear Mary's voice. Thanks for being here. And now let's look again with an open heart. Because this message is not a coincidence. There is something bigger happening. The signs are everywhere. And although many are still sleeping, you are here listening. That already says a lot. That is already a sign. Maria is calling, not to condemn, but to reunite, not to punish, but to embrace, not to impose fear, but to plant love. There is a silent army being formed. He doesn't carry weapons. He doesn't shout in the streets. He doesn't seek power. That army prays, that army loves, that army consoles, and you can be part of it. Because when Mary speaks, she does not speak to crowds. She speaks to each heart as if it were the only one. And today, that heart is yours. Are you willing to listen to her? When a mother cries, everything stops. There is a pain that goes beyond words, a suffering that cannot be measured with human logic. And when that mother is the Virgin Mary, the mother of the Savior, the Queen of Heaven, her tears are not just drops of sadness. They are signs from heaven, warnings of love, alerts of a spiritual battle that many refuse to see. In different parts of the world, images of him have shed real tears in the presence of witnesses, scientists, and faithful who have been overwhelmed. Why is Mary crying? What does that silent cry that comes from her mother's eyes mean? What is he trying to tell us with that gesture that pierces the heart? Mary's tears are not new. For centuries, the Church has recorded manifestations in which its statues, portraits, or apparitions have shown a deeply moved face, with tears running down their cheeks. In Akita, Japan, in 1973, a wooden image of the Virgin cried 101 times, being scientifically studied. In Syracuse, Italy, in 1953, a plaster image wept human tears. At Fatima, although there was no visible physical crying, the message Mary brought was one of deep sadness for the sins of the world. How can we not see a pattern in all this? How can we ignore that such a pure mother cries for something that humanity is not understanding? Every tear that falls from her eyes carries a hidden message. It is not a simple act of compassion. It's a warning. Mary cries for the children who are lost, for the hardened hearts, for the souls that distance themselves from God. She cries for the destroyed families, for the innocents who suffer, for those who reject the love of her Son. Weep for those who blaspheme, for those who live as if God did not exist, for those who ignore the light and prefer to walk in darkness. Her tears are like drops of heaven that fall to wake us up from the spiritual lethargy in which we are immersed. Mary does not cry out of weakness, cry for love. A love that does not give up, that does not get tired, that does not give up. Cry because there is still hope, because we can still change, because we still have time. His cry is a silent plea that breaks through the walls of our pride. It is a wordless voice that resonates in the conscience. He tells us, "Children, do not follow this path. Return to the heart of the Father. Pray, pray with your soul." But few listen. Many continue as if nothing happened, ignoring the signs that multiply. Could it be that we have become insensitive even to a mother's cry? Mary in each apparition has insisted on the prayer of the Rosary, on confession, on the Eucharist, on fasting, on the conversion of the heart. But the world is running in the opposite direction. It mocks the sacred, trivializes sin, normalizes what hurts the soul, and Mary cries, not with tears of despair, but with tears of mercy, because he knows that what is coming will be hard, but he also knows that those who take refuge in his heart will not be alone. Each tear of his is like a call to take refuge under his mantle, a shield that cannot be seen, but that protects against storms that we have not yet imagined. These tears also have a redemptive meaning. They remind us that all is not lost. They invite us to dry the tears of others, to be a consolation for those who suffer, to take the hand of the one who has fallen, to forgive, to love. They invite us to imitate Mary, not just venerate her. And in that process, something in us begins to heal. The hardened soul softens. The cold heart begins to burn again. Mary's tears awaken in us the desire to be better, to return to what is essential, to look at heaven again with clean eyes. God does not want anyone's condemnation. Maria knows this better than anyone. That's why he intercedes, that's why he cries, that's why he begs. It offers us the time of mercy before the time of justice. A short, fragile time, but enough to change everything if we open our hearts. The tears of the Virgin should not leave us indifferent. They must move us to action, to transformation, to fidelity. In those moments of inner silence, when the world screams and everything seems out of control, close your eyes and think about those tears. Not as something distant or symbolic, but as a living reality. Because yes, Maria is crying today, and he does it for you, for me, for everyone. Cry because we still do not understand how much love there is in heaven for humanity. Cry because there is still hope. He cries because his Son awaits us with open arms. He cries because he doesn't want you to get lost. And you? Are you hearing his cry? If you have ever felt that no one understands you, that you are alone, that your own pain has no outlet, remember this. There is a mother who cries with you, a mother who looks at you with tenderness, A mother who has not forgotten you. She doesn't judge you, she hugs you. It doesn't blame you, it lifts you up. It doesn't force you, it invites you. And he does it with tears in his eyes, but with faith that you can come back, because you are worth it. Because for her, you are a precious jewel. And if at this moment you are feeling something in your heart, a restlessness, an emotion, a small light, do not ignore it. It may be that Mary is touching your soul right now. His tears have reached you. What will you do with this call? Let me know in the comments if you have ever seen an image of Mary crying or if this message has touched you. We want to read your experience. Your testimony can awaken another heart that is still asleep. There is a moment that we will all face, a moment suspended in time in which there will be no place to hide, no excuses to utter. It will be the naked soul facing the truth. There will be no masks, there will be no costumes, only you and God. And in that silent encounter, you will know not only what you did, but what you could have done and did not do. You will see your life as it really was, not as you thought it was. That is the inner warning. A deep, intimate experience in which each consciousness will be illuminated by the light of God, and each soul will know the truth of its spiritual state. Maria has spoken of this moment with deep urgency. He has called it an act of mercy, not judgment. It's not punishment. It's an opportunity, one last call, a heavenly whisper before the roar. A father does not want to punish his children without first giving them the opportunity to change. And heaven, in its infinite goodness, has prepared this moment as a divine mirror where every human being, regardless of their religion, culture, or condition, will have the possibility of seeing themselves with the eyes of eternity. It will not be an external event. It will not be heard like thunder nor seen like lightning. It will be something internal, staff, deep, but more real than anything you've ever experienced. It will be as if the soul woke up from a long dream, as if a pure light penetrated every corner of the being and revealed what was hidden, and that light will not be to shame, but to liberate, to heal, to invite sincere conversion, so that we no longer live asleep, so that we stop justifying sin, so that we return to the heart of God with true tears. Many will call it the Great Awakening. Others will see it as an internal collapse. Some will feel peace, others immense pain. Because seeing your sins is not easy. Seeing the damage you caused, the love you rejected, the times you remained silent out of cowardice, the moments in which you chose selfishness, it hurts. But it also transforms, because the truth, when received with humility, saves. And that is what heaven wants, to save, not to condemn, enlighten, do not destroy. What if those tears were for you? For centuries, in various parts of the world, extraordinary manifestations have been recorded in images of the Virgin Mary, tears that flow from her eyes, faces soaked in pain, sculptures that inexplicably cry. These events are not only moving because of their supernatural nature, but also because of the profound message they seem to convey. A mother's tears are not in vain, and in the case of Mary, each tear has a name, a story, a plea. He doesn't cry for her. Cry for us. Mary does not cry out of fear, cry for love, cry for the children who walk away, for the hearts that grow cold, for the souls that walk towards darkness without realizing it. In each apparition in which their eyes fill with tears, there is a silent cry. Return to my son. He is the way, the truth, and the life. Indeed, their tears are not signs of weakness, but of a compassion that transcends the human, a compassion that burns, that intercedes, that never tires of waiting for our conversion. When a mother cries, there is no indifference that can be justified. Her crying breaks barriers, melts hardened hearts, pierces the soul. Mary, the Mother of God, seeing the suffering of humanity, cannot remain impassive. Cry for those who have strayed from the faith. Cry for the children who do not know the love of God. He cries for the divided families, for the wars that devastate entire towns, for the violence that is normalized, for the indifference of a humanity that has become cold in the face of other people's pain. But he also cries for you. Yes, for you who read these words. He cries when he sees you suffering in silence, when he sees you carrying a cross without comfort, when he sees you moving away from the light due to wounds that have not yet healed. They are not tears of reproach. They are tears of a mother who loves you deeply and who wants you to discover the peace that only her son can offer. Each tear is a plea to heaven, a powerful intercession for your soul, an urgent call to return. Those tears are also a mirror. They invite us to look inside ourselves and ask ourselves, why would Mary cry for me? What wounds are there in my heart that I have not yet allowed to heal? What chains am I still dragging that prevent me from walking towards plenitude? They challenge us to wake up from spiritual slumber and ask ourselves if we have been ignoring the calls of heaven by living in the rush of the world. They remind us that we are not alone and that there is always a mother waiting with open arms. In places like Akita, Japan, or Syracuse, Italy, the tears in images of Mary have been scientifically analyzed and, in many cases, confirmed as human. But beyond the evidence, the message is clear. Heaven is speaking, and she does it with the tenderness of a mother who does not scream, but cries. A cry that resonates louder than 1,000 words, that shakes more than any sermon, that touches hearts with an inescapable truth. Something is wrong, and we must change. Maria does not come to impose. She comes to invite. Her tears are like seeds that fall into the dry soil of our hearts, waiting for us to let them germinate. Every tear is an act of love, a wish for us to get back on track. We cannot look at her tears and remain the same. We cannot ignore that pain without asking ourselves, what can I do to console the Mother of God? How can I answer your call? What part of my life needs conversion? This message is also hope. Because where there are tears, there is life. Where there is crying, there is presence. Mary has not abandoned us. He is with us. He walks by our side. He constantly intercedes. Her tears not only speak of pain, but of hope in what we can be, if we allow God to act in us. She sees our potential, our ability to love, to forgive, to rebuild what seemed lost. He cries because he knows that there is still time, that we can still return, that the miracle of transformation is possible. If you have ever felt that no one understood you, that your pain was invisible, that your struggle had no witnesses, remember this. Mary sees your tears and silently lets hers fall for you. You are not alone. Her mother's love is stronger than your falls, bigger than your mistakes, deeper than your wounds. She doesn't expect perfection. Just wait for your yes, your sincere desire to return to the Father. Mary's tears do not seek to manipulate. They seek to wake up. Awaken the sleeping soul, the extinguished faith, the abandoned hope. And now, dear friend, after knowing these profound truths, tell me, have you ever felt that Mary's tears are also for you? Write in the comments what you feel knowing that a heavenly mother cries for us. I will read you. In the midst of the constant noise of the modern world, where the human soul is bombarded by distractions, temptations, and anguish, the rosary emerges as a spiritual refuge. Many have seen it only as a pious practice of the past, repetitive and monotonous. But what many do not know is that, in reality, the rosary is one of the most powerful weapons that heaven has given to humanity to resist the forces of evil and achieve inner peace. The Virgin Mary, in multiple appearances recognized by the Church, has insistently requested that the rosary be prayed daily. Why this insistence? Because in each Hail Mary, in each Our Father and Glory Be, is contained a direct invocation to heaven, a humble supplication that pierces the veil of the visible and touches the heart of God. It is not a simple repetition. It is an echo of the soul that aligns with the heartbeat of heaven. From Fatima to Lourdes, passing through Akita and Medjugorje, Mary has reiterated her call to this prayer as a means of conversion, protection, and reparation. In Fatima, for example, he said firmly, "Pray the rosary every day to obtain peace in the world and the end of war." It is a powerful statement that reveals a deep spiritual truth. The rosary can change the course of history. And not only does it change the destiny of the world, it also transforms the heart of the one who prays it. There are people who have left vices, healed emotional wounds, overcome deep depressions, and found meaning in their lives simply through the constant act of praying the rosary. It is like a drop that falls on the stone again and again until it shapes it. This is what the rosary is like. It softens the hardened heart. It illuminates the cloudy mind. It awakens the sleeping soul. In Catholic tradition, the rosary has been called the chain that binds the devil and the whip that drives him away. It's not poetry. There are exorcists who have testified how this prayer provokes violent reactions in possessed people and how demons deeply fear it. Because where the rosary is prayed with faith, Mary is present, and where she steps, the evil one flees. The structure of the rosary, far from being mechanical, introduces us to deep meditation on the mysteries of Christ. Through its 5 decades, key passages of the Gospel are covered that allow us to contemplate with the eyes of the soul the birth, passion, death, and resurrection of the Lord. In this way, the Rosary is not only vocal prayer, but also mental and contemplative prayer. Mary takes us by the hand and leads us mystery after mystery to the heart of the Gospel. Many saints have been fervent devotees of the Rosary. St. John Paul II called it his favorite prayer. St. Padre Pio had it in his hands day and night, stating that it was his weapon. St. Teresa of Calcutta distributed it wherever she went, convinced of its effectiveness. What did they know that perhaps we have forgotten? They knew that the Rosary is not a religious ornament. It is a living tool that moves heaven. When a person begins to pray the Rosary consistently, something inside changes. Calm replaces anxiety. Patience springs forth in the midst of chaos. Hope blooms in times of darkness, because this prayer, repeated in humility, opens an invisible door through which grace enters. It is like tuning into a spiritual frequency, like raising the antenna of the soul to receive divine light. Furthermore, the Rosary unites families. Mary has promised that where the Rosary is prayed as a family, there will be peace. In a world fragmented by domestic violence, disunity, and lack of dialogue, this promise becomes an urgent need. Praying together not only strengthens individual faith, it also restores bonds, heals family wounds, and protects the home from spiritual attacks. And not only that, the Rosary prepares the soul for the final combat. In the times we live in, where so many signs point to a great spiritual battle that is intensifying, this prayer becomes a shield. Mary warns us that we are in spiritual warfare, but we are not defenseless. With the Rosary in hand, the soul becomes strong, brave, serene, not by its own power, but because it is sustained by the power of heaven. Those who pray it daily can bear witness. Impossible situations have changed, closed hearts have opened, difficult decisions have found clarity, and quiet miracles have blossomed. Because the Rosary is not magic, it's grace, and grace acts when the heart is given with humility. Therefore, when Mary says, "Pray the Rosary every day," she does not say it as a suggestion, but as a maternal instruction to survive in the midst of the storm. It is a compass in the desert. It is a lamp in the darkness. It is a lifesaver in the sea of suffering. It is, in short, the echo of heaven on our lips. She has promised peace, protection, and comfort to those who are faithful to this prayer. That promise remains valid, and it is available to everyone. You just need to take the Rosary in your hands, close your eyes, and start praying. And do you already pray the Rosary every day? Tell me in the comments how this prayer has touched your life. What is heaven wanting to tell us lately? Since the dawn of humanity, heaven has been a kind of open book for those who know how to read with the eyes of the soul. stars moving in unusual directions, inexplicable lights, northern lights in places where they have never been seen. They are not simple coincidences or meaningless phenomena. Spiritual history teaches us that heaven speaks when the earth no longer listens. And today, more than ever, the sky seems to raise its voice, shout silently with its cosmic signs and whispers. The modern human being, immersed in routine, in digital noise and in the logic of consumption, has become deaf to the language from above. But there are those who still look up and perceive that something is happening. Mary, in multiple approved and unapproved appearances, has indicated that heaven would send signs before the great change. Those signs are already here. Many testimonies from people in different parts of the world agree on something amazing. They are seeing the same type of phenomena without any connection between them. People of simple faith in the fields of Colombia, older women praying the rosary in Italian villages, children in African villages, all say they have seen mysterious lights, figures formed by the clouds, glows in the sky at night. Could all this be a collective illusion? Or is it that heaven is truly communicating with us through an ancient language which can only be understood with an open heart? The signs in the sky are not entertainment or spectacle. They are calls for attention. They are the prelude to what is to come. There are records of extraordinary signs that coincide with prophetic events in history. Before the Great Plague that hit Europe in the 14th century, there were reports of strange night lights. Before World War II, witnesses claimed to have seen skies dyed blood red in areas where there had never been the northern lights. More recently, in the days before the 9/11 attacks in New York, many people reported dreams and visions related to fire descending from the sky. All this would seem anecdotal if it were not for the fact that the Virgin Mary, in places such as Garabandal, Medjugorje and Akita, explicitly spoke of visible signs in the sky as a prelude to divine intervention. She said, "When you see the sky change, bow down and pray. Heaven will speak to sincere hearts." The scriptures also tell us about signs in the firmament as divine language. In the Gospel of Luke, Jesus himself says, "There will be signs in the sun, in the moon, and in the stars, and on earth anguish of people confused by the roar of the sea and the waves." Luke 21:25. The sky, then, is not mute. The sky cries out, and when it cries out, it does not do so to scare but to awaken. It is an act of mercy that invites us to reflect, to change, to sincere conversion. It is not about reading the sky like someone reading a horoscope, but about interpreting the times we live in from the Spirit. The Virgin calls us to vigilance, not a fearful vigilance, but a spiritual one. In ancient times, prophets knew how to observe the sky as a reflection of the states of the collective soul. When the clouds became thick and black, they understood that something on earth was disordered. When new stars appeared, they knew that God wanted to announce something. Today, we have telescopes that show us dazzling images of distant galaxies, but we have lost the spiritual sensitivity that the shepherds, peasants, and praying mothers of yesteryear had. It's time to look at the sky again with the eyes of the soul. Every time you see a redder than normal moon, an unusual comet, a particularly intense meteor shower, stop and ask yourself, what does God want to tell me with this? Because if the sky is altered, the earth is also about to change. There are those who will say that everything has a scientific explanation, that the northern lights expand due to geomagnetic changes, that strange lights are reflections from satellites, that celestial phenomena are natural. And yes, in many cases it is true, but what makes the difference is not the phenomenon itself, but the moment in which it occurs and the impact it has on the soul. When a sign touches the heart and awakens an impulse to pray, repent or search, then it has fulfilled its purpose. We do not need a shooting star to make wishes, but a living sky that moves us to cry out for mercy. Mary does not ask us to worship the signs, but rather to listen to her call through them. The Marian messages exhort us to live attentively, praying and fasting, not as fanatics of the apocalypse, but as children preparing for the embrace of the Father. The signs in the sky are reminders that this world is not eternal, that our material securities can fall in a second, and that only the spiritual remains. In Garabandal, for example, it was announced that a great warning would come, preceded by a celestial phenomenon visible from all over the world. What if that day you were distracted, busy, spiritually asleep? What if the sign was for you, but you couldn't see it? It is no coincidence that the most repeated words of the Virgin in her apparitions are conversion, prayer, penance. Humanity has lost the capacity for wonder. We see a cross-shaped cloud and take a photo for social media, but we don't kneel. We see the sun rotating, as reported at Fatima, and think that it is an optical phenomenon, without asking what heaven means by that. Mary does not appear in vain. Every appearance of yours, every tear, every word, every light from heaven has a deep spiritual reason. She is fighting for our souls. And if the sky shakes, it is because the soul of the world is in danger. This is the time to wake up, to look at the sky and pray, to read the signs with humility and let the Holy Spirit reveal to us what God wants us to know. The signs in the sky are not final, they are beginning. Doors open for us to return home before it's too late. Don't ignore what you see. Do not despise what others testify. Discern, pray, ask. Not with fear, but with true hunger. Have you seen any sign in the sky that made you reflect? Tell us your experience in the comments. There is something disturbing in the silence, but even more disturbing is when we break it and realize that we have been ignoring a voice that has been speaking to us forever. That voice is Maria's. As the world races toward an uncertain future, as the noise of chaos, of wars, of spiritual and moral collapses grows louder, she continues to speak, not with screams or threats, but with the tenderness of a mother who sees her children walking towards the abyss and never tires of warning. Maria has not been silent. In every apparition, in every message delivered to humble visionaries, in every corner of the world where he has manifested himself with tears or miracles, his call has been the same: conversion, prayer, fasting, and preparation. Not out of fear, but out of love. Not to punish, but to transform. The end times he speaks of are not an absolute end, but rather a transition. A painful birth, yes, but one that will give birth to something new. But the big problem is that, as humanity, we have become experts at ignoring the uncomfortable. We prefer to talk about success, the material, the immediate. And when we are told about the eternal, the spiritual, the invisible, we change the channel. It makes us uncomfortable. What if the real danger is not in what is to come, but in our indifference? Mary's messages are full of compassion, but also urgency. She has said that times of purification will come, where humanity will be confronted with itself. It speaks of natural disasters, of spiritual crises, of a humanity that has forgotten God. But it also speaks of hope, of spiritual refuges, of a new era where the heart will beat again to the rhythm of heaven. In Fatima, Lourdes, La Salette, Medjugorje, Garabandal, and so many other places, his voice has been a constant. In some cases he has cried blood, in others he has caused springs to gush forth, but the central message does not change. Prepare, listen, pray, and it is not a message for a few elect or visionaries. It is for you, for me, for every soul that inhabits this world. The difficulty is that many times Marian messages do not fit into our modern agendas. They demand sacrifice. They demand inner silence. They demand humility to accept that we need to change. But therein lies the true transformative power. Maria does not come to scare, she comes to wake up. He does not come to impose fear, but to sow light in the midst of darkness. When she talks about the end times, she's not talking about a disaster movie. It refers to the end of an era of sin, of indifference, of hatred, and at the beginning of a time of grace. But like all birth, it requires pain, requires cleaning. It requires that the old die so that the new can be born. And that's why his words can seem harsh. But there is no punishment in them, only loving warning. Many wonder, why so many messages? Why so much insistence? Could it be that God never tires of warning us? And the answer is clear: no, he doesn't get tired, because he loves us with eternal love, and because he knows there is still time, that we can still come back, that there are still souls that can awaken. But there is also a painful truth. Not everyone wants to listen, and not because they do not believe in Mary or her messages, but because accepting her words implies taking responsibility. It involves acting. It involves leaving behind what makes us numb, and that costs. That is why it is easier to say that it is an exaggeration or that they are inventions. Heaven, however, continues to insist. The signs multiply: lights in the sky, earthquakes, plagues, drastic changes in climate, unprecedented moral crises. Everything seems to scream at us that we are reaching a turning point. And Mary, as a mother, continues to whisper, "Return to my son. Take refuge in my immaculate heart. Do not fear, but prepare yourselves." Each message from Mary has an almost maternal structure. It begins with a caress, continues with a warning, and ends with a promise. She doesn't leave us alone. It offers us spiritual weapons: the rosary, the Eucharist, confession, the reading of the Gospel. It teaches us to live in the present, with our eyes set on eternity. The big mistake would be to think that this is not for us, which is only for the very religious, or for those who have time to pray. Each of us has a role in this time, and Maria knows it. That is why he calls us from so many places, with different accents, but with the same underlying message. Perhaps the most profound thing about his message is that the end times are not counted in clocks or calendars, but in hearts. The end of the world begins when the soul closes itself to love, and the beginning of a new era begins when a heart opens to grace. Therefore, beyond future events, your call is current, urgent, and personal. So why is it so hard for us to listen to it? Why do we prefer to ignore his voice? Maybe because deep down we know he's right. May his words confront us, that we cannot continue living as if nothing happened. Because it is happening. Heaven is speaking. And those who do not listen will not be able to say that they were not warned. And you, are you willing to open your heart, to live with eyes awake and soul on fire? Mary doesn't force us, but she doesn't keep quiet either. She will keep calling, waiting, pleading, because a mother never abandons her children. Tell me in the comments, have you ever felt that inner call from Mary? What do you think about the messages he has given to the world? For centuries, humanity has witnessed cycles of darkness and light, wars and reconciliations, devastating losses and miraculous rebirths. In the midst of every storm, the soul seeks comfort and hope. And in this particular time, when the world seems to be tilting toward chaos, the words of the Virgin Mary stand like a beacon. After pain, there will come peace. Ned, this message, repeated in multiple Marian apparitions over time, is not simple emotional consolation. It is a divine promise. It is an echo of Mary's maternal heart that sees beyond the storm and points out with gentleness and firmness that there will be a dawn for those who do not give up. In various revelations, such as those of Fatima, Medjugorje, Akita, and others less known but equally profound, Mary has clearly expressed that tribulation is a necessary stage, not as punishment, but as purification. The world has turned its heart away from God, has despised spiritual life, has replaced truth with pride, love with interest, faith with human logic. And in the face of this progressive fall of the collective soul, heaven does not remain silent. Mary, in her role as mother, cannot help but intervene. But he doesn't do it with shouts or condemnations. He does it with tears, with supplications, with urgent calls to conversion. He does this by showing that even in the midst of fire, if there is prayer, if there is faithfulness, there will be redemption. The concept of a later peace is not new in the spiritual history of humanity. The prophets of the Old Testament already announced days of darkness followed by the glory of God. Isaiah, for example, spoke of a time when the wolf would dwell with the lamb and the child would play with the serpent without any danger. These images are not mere poetic metaphors. They are prophetic signs of a restoration that transcends human understanding. Mary, as Queen of the Prophets, takes up that tradition and updates it for our times. She reminds us that not everything is lost, that the pain will not be eternal, and that behind the judgment there is a luminous promise waiting to be welcomed, but that peace will not come by magic. It won't be instantaneous. Mary insists that it will be the fruit of suffering, of confident abandonment, of perseverance in faith. Those who have kept the flame lit in the midst of darkness, who have offered their tears in prayer, who have preferred good even if everyone chose evil, will see with their own eyes the birth of a new world. This new world will not necessarily be technological or futuristic as the movies have shown us. It will be a spiritual world where the heart of man will once again beat in tune with the heart of God, where the values of the kingdom reign in families, in communities, in daily decisions. It will be a time of harmony, not of perfection, but of restoration. Many wonder when that time will come. Maria's response is not in dates, but in attitudes. It is not so much when that matters, but rather how we are waiting. Are we awake or asleep? Are we praying or distracting ourselves? Are we loving or criticizing? Because the promised peace is not just a global event, it is also a personal experience. Before peace descends upon the nations, it must first take root in the heart of every believer. That is the preparation that Maria requests. May each soul be a fertile ground where hope can sprout after the storm. Furthermore, the Virgin has taught us that this peace will be sealed by the presence of her Son. It will not be a peace built by human hands, but one established by the Spirit. It will be like a new Pentecost, where the fire from heaven will not consume through destruction, but will purify through love. And in that transformed world, those who have remained faithful will witness daily miracles, interior healings, impossible reconciliations, a new beauty in the creation that seemed dead. Tears will be dried, wounds closed, absences consoled, because the sky will finally have touched the earth in a tangible way. We cannot ignore that to reach that promise, one must first go through a difficult time. The tribulation is not a mystical invention, it is an already present reality. Just look around, diseases that advance, tensions between nations, crises in families, violence that multiplies, values that are diluted. All of these are signs of labor, and as in every birth, pain precedes life. Mary, in her role as Mother of the Church, takes us by the hand so that we do not panic in the face of pain, but rather live them with confidence, knowing that something new is about to be born. Many doubt, others mock, some resign, but the little ones, the simple ones, those who listen with their hearts, know that there is truth in Mary's words. They know that this mother does not lie, that his language is full of tenderness, but also urgency. That she does not want us to suffer unnecessarily, but neither can she avoid the pains of purification. It reminds us that, as on the cross, Death Friday comes first, but then Resurrection Sunday comes, that the grain must die to bear fruit, and that history will not end in ruins but in glory. Today, more than ever, it is urgent to hold on to that promise. Pray it, meditate on it, trust it. Because when the news bombards us with hopelessness, we need a motherly voice to tell us, "My son, this is not the end. Wait a little longer. The light is near." And that voice is that of Mary, who has been with us in all the battles of the soul, in all the wars of the spirit, in all the silences where we thought that God had forgotten. She never left. He was always interceding, accompanying, strengthening those who still do not give up. Therefore, if today you are going through a storm, if pain blinds you or uncertainty paralyzes you, remember his promise. Peace will come, not from governments, nor from human plans. It will come from heaven. It will come from above. It will come when you least expect it, but when you need it most. And at that moment, you'll know it was worth believing, that it was worth resisting, that it was worth praying even with tears. Because the new dawn is not an illusion. It is the destiny of those who love. Tell me in the comments, are you waiting for that peace? How do you keep your hope alive? There are moments in history that mark a before and after. Times where humanity is reeling, where evil appears stronger, and where darkness seems to want to silence hope. In the midst of this scenario, calls arise. Not everyone can hear them. Not everyone is prepared to understand them. But if you are here, if you are reading these words, it is because there is something different about you. Maria doesn't call randomly. Her maternal voice, soft but firm, has resonated through time, seeking willing hearts, available souls, brave spirits. And if this message has reached you, it is because you are one of them. From Fatima to Medjugorje, from La Salette to Akita, the Virgin's words are repeated with an urgent but loving tone. Little children, wake up. The world needs light. And you are that light. Mary does not speak to crowds to entertain. She looks for those who listen with their hearts, to those who not only believe, but are willing to act. When Mary appears and delivers her messages, she does not do so as someone giving news for tomorrow. She speaks like a mother who sees beyond, who knows what is coming, who wants to prepare her children so that they do not get lost in the chaos. In his calls there is no fear, but warning. There is no condemnation, but opportunity. There is no rejection, but choice. You have been chosen not for your merits, but for your availability. Not because of your perfection, but because of your disposition. Being chosen does not mean having all the answers. It means having your heart open to the will of God. Being chosen is not a prize, it is a responsibility. One that is lived in everyday life, in the silence of prayer, in the simple act of consoling, in the word that lifts up, in the advice that guides, in the perseverance that does not give up, even if everything seems lost. In these times of tribulation, confusion, and spiritual struggle, the world needs lighthouses, people who, even in the midst of their own pain, decide to be hope for others. Mary has said that her spiritual army will not be made up of the strongest according to the world, but of the smallest according to heaven. Those who allow themselves to be molded, who pray when no one sees, who trust even if they don't understand. Many are waiting for a great sign, a spectacular revelation, but the call of heaven is subtle. It occurs in the whisper of the soul, in the impulse to pray without knowing for whom, in the inexplicable desire to comfort a stranger, in the urgent need to share a word of faith. Those small impulses are not coincidences. They are instructions from heaven. They are signs that you are part of a greater plan. Mary needs brave hearts, not violent warriors. It needs prayers, not opinionators. You need intercessors, not spectators. And if you have lately felt a fire inside, a restlessness that you cannot explain, a desire to return to God, a need to cleanse your life, do not ignore it. It's her touching your soul, calling you, waking you up. This call is not for tomorrow, it's for today. It is not for another, it's for you. Maybe you feel unworthy, broken, tired, but remember that God does not call the qualified, He trains those He calls. And Mary, like a good mother, knows exactly who can resist this time. That's why he chose you, because there is something in you that heaven needs to unfold. The mission will not always be clear from the beginning. Maybe you just have to pray silently for your family. Maybe your role is to comfort a neighbor, bring a word to a sick person, or simply keep faith alive in your home. But every little action adds up in the kingdom. Every act done out of love echoes in eternity. Those chosen for these times are not recognized by their fame, but by their fidelity. They don't shine on stages, but in hidden moments. They do not seek glory, but to serve. And in that anonymity, in that dedication without applause, is where Maria builds her army. She's counting on you. Not because of what you know, but because of what you are capable of doing when you let yourself be guided by his hand. Today, more than ever, the world needs voices that pray, that intercede, that sustain. Evil has gained ground because many good people have remained silent. But you were not called to silence. You were called for spiritual battle, one that is freed with the rosary, with adoration, with forgiveness, with compassion. You are here because Maria saw you before you realized it, because heaven trusts that you can be light in the midst of darkness, because this is not just any time, and you are not just any soul. You have been chosen, and now the question is not whether you deserve it. The real question is, will you answer the call? Have you also felt that call in your heart? Have you felt that something inside you is asking you to do more, pray more, believe more? Tell me in the comments what your experience has been. Since the beginning of time, God has spoken to humanity through signs, prophets, and voices that resonate not in thunder, but in the heart. In the midst of wars, pestilences, earthquakes, and apostasy, his voice has always found a channel. And in recent times, that voice has found in Mary, the mother of her Son, the most tender, most insistent, most patient, and perhaps the most ignored instrument, because the world has learned to silence the sacred, to hide the eternal under the noise of the ephemeral. But still, Maria has continued talking. It has continued to appear. He has continued to beg, like a mother who can't abandon her children, even when they no longer listen to her. But what if this was his last message? What if every word that now comes from heaven was part of a merciful farewell? What if the time of her voice was coming to an end, not because she wants it, but because she has already said it all? This is the most disturbing possibility that many world visionaries have shared. There will come a time when Mary will no longer speak, not because he gets tired, not because I stopped loving, but because the sky will have already revealed enough. And silence will not be absence, it will be judgment. In multiple approved and unapproved apparitions, from Fatima through Garabandal, Akita, La Salette, Kibeho, to Medjugorje, the Virgin has left messages with a common thread. Humanity is moving away from God, and a time of purification is approaching, a time that will be more difficult for those who do not prepare themselves spiritually. Mary has not come to sow fear, but to awaken. He has not come to punish, but to offer refuge. But the door to that refuge will not be open forever. His voice is an anteroom, an echo of love that may soon cease. At Fatima, he said clearly that Russia's errors would spread throughout the world, that many nations would be annihilated, and that if people were not converted, great punishments would come. He also promised that his Immaculate Heart would triumph. But before that triumph, there would be pain. And that pain is what we see manifest today. Divisions in the church, moral confusion, loss of faith, growing violence, cold hearts. Maria already warned of all this, and he did it clearly enough. The question is, are we listening? Many think that these prophecies are old tales, stories for ancient times, but they are more alive than ever. The signs from heaven have multiplied. The uncontrolled climate, the global pandemics, the ideology that corrupts innocence, the indifference to the divine. All of this was predicted, and not because Mary wanted it to happen, but because as a mother, She saw coming what we did not want to see. And his voice, his call, his cry is not a spectacle. It is a warning with the purest love that exists. Garabandal in the 60s told us about the warning, the miracle, and the punishment. 3 stages in the plan of divine mercy and justice. The Virgin told the girls that after the miracle, if humanity did not change, punishment would come. But he also said something shocking, that after the warning there would be a brief time for conversion, and that would be the last time, which implies that after that period Maria would no longer intervene with messages. The sky would have spoken, the trial would begin. What are we waiting for to open the eyes of the soul? One more miracle? One more tear of blood in an image? A major catastrophe? How much more do we need to understand that it is not about being afraid, but about having faith? Mary has come time after time as a mother, but also as a prophet, as a messenger of God's mercy. And if his voice fades, it will not be because he has abandoned us, but because the time for listening will be over. The time to act will have begun. And then each one will live the consequences of their response or their indifference. Every message that still arrives is a gift, an opportunity, a whisper that says, "Son, you can still come back." But it won't last forever. The sky has already spoken for more than a century. How much longer are we going to wait? How many more signs will we ignore? How many more times are we going to justify ourselves by saying that we don't have time, that we are not ready, that it is not for us? The time to decide is now, because love doesn't scream, love does not impose, love speaks, but he also remains silent when he is not heard, and that silence can be the most painful. Because when Mary no longer speaks, many will realize too late what they ignored. Many will want to hear what they previously despised. Many will seek what they previously rejected. Therefore, today there is still time. Today there is still a voice. Today there is still grace. Today you can still close your eyes and say, "Yes, Mother, I hear you." Don't let this moment pass you by. Don't put it off until tomorrow, because tomorrow may be too late. Not because Maria doesn't want to keep calling, but because you will no longer be able to hear her. This is the last call, the echo of a mother's heart that never tires of waiting. But he also knows that the time of decision is approaching. This is not empty religiosity. It's about salvation. It's about eternity. It is about the final battle between light and darkness. And Mary has been sent to prepare her children. But the spiritual army cannot be asleep. He can't be distracted. It cannot be divided. The last message will not come with trumpets. It will come with silence. And that silence will speak louder than 1,000 words. Right now, as you read these lines, heaven is watching your soul, not to condemn you, but to wait for you. The Virgin has spoken to you, directly, personally, not to the crowds, to your heart. Do you feel it? Then answer, because this could be the last call, and if you let it go, you may never hear a voice so sweet, so strong, so holy again. Maria is still waiting for you. Tell us in the comments if you've ever felt like a Marian message was especially for you. Have you had a dream, sign, or word that touched your soul? We want to hear you. Your testimony can enlighten others. Think for a moment about all the times you ignored a warning because you thought you still had time. Maybe it was an unanswered call, a conversation you put off, an apology you never gave, a prayer you put off. Now imagine that warning comes from heaven, that it is the Mother of God herself who has been speaking to you in silence, in dreams, in words that you found without searching, in those mysterious tears that you saw in an image, in that phrase that seemed written for you. And yet, perhaps you overlooked it, or you read it quickly, or you thought, "I'll do it later." That after may not come, because heaven does not repeat messages infinitely. God is patient, but his justice is not indifferent. Maria knows it. That's why he's talked so much, for so long. He has implored the world to return to his Son. He has asked that the rosary be prayed. He has prayed for the consecration of families. He has announced what would happen if we didn't change. And everything is happening. Everything he announced is being fulfilled. But humanity has become deaf. And that silence, that subtle rejection, also reaches heaven. It does not offend him like a blasphemy, but it hurts him like a betrayal. Mary's silence, when it comes, will not be a punishment. It will be the sign that time has ended. It will be like when a mother stops calling her children for dinner because she already knows they won't come. He doesn't stop loving them, but he understands that he can't force them. And so he sits at the table, tears in his eyes, hoping that maybe one, just one, will return of his own free will. That is the image of Mary in these times. A mother standing at the door, looking down the road, knowing she can't scream anymore, but hoping that at the last second someone will still come back. The messages are there. There are no excuses. We can't say we didn't know. They are in the Gospels, in the Psalms, in the apparitions, in the prayers of the saints, in the tears of the seers, in the books of the Apocalypse. Everything is written, everything has been said. The problem is not that God does not speak. The problem is that we no longer want to listen. We prefer noise. We prefer empty entertainment. We prefer a false peace, even though we know that it drags us towards the abyss. And when we feel empty, we seek to fill our soul with everything, except God. Maria has shown us the solution many times: the conversion, sincere repentance, fasting, frequent communion, the confession of the soul, reading the gospel, the consecration to her Immaculate Heart. He has not asked us for anything impossible. He just wants to save us. But the door of the ark will not be open forever. As in the time of Noah, the day will come when God closes it. Not for punishment, but because the time will have expired. And then each one will be where they decided to be, inside or outside the shelter. This may be that day you decide to enter. This can be that minute when you say, "Enough. I don't want this life without God anymore," because heaven is still waiting. Maria is still waiting, but not for long anymore. And when his voice fades, his silence will resonate in every soul. A silence that will say, "I spoke to you, I looked for you, I loved you, and now I respect your decision." If you came this far, it's no coincidence. Maria chose you to read this message. It is his last call to your heart. And even if you think it's too late, for her it's never too late. But you must respond now, not tomorrow, not when you feel something, not when you are ready. The soul prepares itself the moment it says yes, and you can say that yes today. If any part of this message has touched something in you, tell me in the comments. What did you feel while reading? Have you felt that Mary has spoken to you personally at any time in your life? Your response can not only change you, it can also be the seed that awakens the soul of another.